Hello dear viewer, and welcome to The Broken Expanse. Many years ago in Maine, there was a relatively small but well-known town called Raven's End, only accessible by a few dirt roads nestled between the forests, but nonetheless had a quaint and charming appeal that drove many travellers there to sample their delicious food, ales and hospitality. That was until he arrived. No one knew his name or seldom what he looked like, as he was always shrouded in a large, black leather cloak, always with the hood up. The only parts that were visible were his lower mouth, chin and hands, all of which were as white as death and covered in striking green veins protruding from his semi-translucent flesh, and so he earned the moniker of the Pale Man. It wasn't really clear why or how, but he had seemingly moved into an old mansion that was itself creepy and mysterious, slowly being engorged by nature as its original owner had long since died. No one was sure if he'd bought the property, or if he'd simply decided that he was going to live there. But one thing was certain, no one wanted to go and check. He never ventured out of town and didn't speak to or interact with anyone, seemingly didn't even buy supplies or food. He just sort of existed in the mansion. Only his silhouette visible by candlelight through the windows at nighttime, or on occasion moving mysteriously through the overgrowth, with quick glimpses of his pallid hands seen by those out hunting or collecting fruits and berries. As the months moved on, people began to go missing. At first it was the travellers, leaving behind all of their belongings and simply disappearing. Then the destitute, and eventually, the children. Of course, the atmosphere of Raven's End grew darker and colder. Travellers ceased coming entirely to Raven's End. The once bustling marketplace was half closed, and people shuffled through the streets in a whisper, and the children, once lively and filling the air with laughter, now all locked indoors by their parents, where they felt it was safe. Of course, this kind of thing blends the realities of fact and fiction, and legends soon started circulating that this pale man had strange powers, would laugh manically in the forest in the dead of night, and that he had an insatiable hunger for human lives. Some believed him to be some kind of ghoul, cursed to live for eternity, sustaining himself on the energy of the living. Others believed he was some kind of mad magician, using people for his arcane experiments. One thing was for certain though, he was clearly bad news. One night in late November, a group of young friends decided that enough was enough. They had to see what this pale man was doing and put an end to it. So, armed with lanterns and sheer determination, they made their way out into the dark frost-covered forest, towards the dilapidated mansion, with not a single sound from any wildlife whatsoever, just a deathly silence that weighed heavily and made the air thick with tension. As they grew closer, the mansion loomed over them as though some otherworldly oppressor, its dark windows like dead eyes, piercing right through them. They timidly opened a large cascading yet surprisingly unlocked door and stepped inside. The smell of decay and must was overwhelming, rendering them almost unable to draw complete breaths, the floorboards creaking under their weight as they slowly moved through the long winding corridor, only briefly glancing into the towering abandoned-looking rooms. It was clear no normal entity was living here. They pressed forward looking for anything that would enlighten them on the pale man's true nature. Their hearts pounding in their chests, they finally come upon a large wooden door, adorned with two grotesques at the top and a heavy circular pull for a handle. Determining that this room must be able to give them some insight, that it must be concealing something, one of the group grabs the handle and begins to pull. But nothing. A few others tried their luck, but the door was sealed shut and it wasn't budging an inch. That was until, among the tussle of hands, one of them received a small cut from the sharp edge of one of the lanterns. Nothing major, but just enough for a little blood to form. As the blood rolled down the finger and made contact with the door handle, it suddenly illuminated a dark red sigil in the center of the doorway, at which point a large clunking sound echoed through the gloomy residence and the door gently slid open. Venturing down an almost collapsing staircase, they reach an inner chamber of sorts, with the same strange sigils highlighting the walls as what they had seen on the door. And there in the center of the chamber was a stone pedestal, with a dark, cracked and very old-looking tome. Moving towards it, one of the younger villagers, trembling, picked it up, at which point the blank, half-rotted exterior sprouted writing. A title, if you will. The Book of Living Shadow. This would obviously spur yet more fear and unease in anyone as it did with the others in the room, but not the young man holding the book. He felt transfixed in an almost peaceful dream. However, when dealing with this kind of thing, one should know that nothing is as it seems. Without even realizing what he was doing, he opened the book and began reading its unintelligible passages out loud. Then, suddenly, a loud hissing wind blew through the chamber, swirling around the young man and barring any of the others from reaching him, to snap him out of his haze. Then the sound of wailing as humanoid shadows began rising out of the ground, dancing around, not in glee but as though convulsing in agony. Then, finally, the pale man slowly moving as an apparition through the swirling wind and flailing spectres, one by one, lightly touching each member of the group, his icy fingers causing a frostbiting, torturous pain to pour through their bodies, as one by one they dropped to the floor, screams echoing out of the mansion, so loud and haunting that the townspeople could hear it all the way in their homes, and none of the young villagers were ever seen again. The legend of the Pale Man grew ever darker after that night, with Raven's End now not known as a place of friendliness, good spirits and cheer, but one that was haunted by its dark secrets. And though the mansion again sits abandoned, some say that on cold, moonless nights you can hear the laughter and feel the lingering presence of the Pale Man. And that's it from me for today. I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone watching. We've gone up to 30 subscribers pretty quickly as of late, so truly, to all of you, thank you. With that being said, if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget that little notification bell too. It really helps the channel. If you have any suggestions for future videos, let me know in the comments. I do have a Reddit account as well, but I'm terrible at checking it. But that's also an option, so I'll leave it in the description below. And as always, take care everyone, and don't stray too far from the path, lest you end up in the broken expanse.